is Brittany Lewis. I'm a professional graphic designer and illustrator, and Sundays is the day that I work on my dream project, the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. So welcome to this week's Paint With Me Live. I hope you guys are doing well. Shout out to Marie and PL for being early in the chat. I really appreciate you guys for being there. If you would like to support me in any way, shape, or form, one of the easiest, quickest, freest ways to do that is to hit the thumbs up button. That helps me out a whole lot. That lets YouTube know that you like this kind of content. Hey, Montreal. The chat cutting up. Come on now. That lets YouTube know that you guys appreciate this kind of content. You think that other people would like it as well. So do me that huge favor. If you would like to see other live stream videos, be sure to hit the subscribe button. I stream twice a week, once on Wednesdays at 12:45 and then on Sundays at 3:30. So we're back on the same card that we've been working on for the last, I would say, couple months at this point. So I think today, first of all, where I left off on this Wednesday was I was working on the canopy again. So I was kind of tightening things up. As you guys know, on Sundays I tend to run my mouth, so I don't get quite as much work done. But I think rather than pick up on the canopy, I would like to actually work a little bit on the people. I think that'll be a nice change of pace. And then we'll come back Wednesday. We'll pick up wherever we leave off. So I hope you guys are having a great week this week. It's been good. I'm this time of year is usually my favorite time of the year. I don't know if it's programming from being in school. You know how we started school a long time ago in September, or now it's August, I believe. And you sort of start that new journey. I think that's why I love this time of year. I'm always the most creative in the fall for whatever reason. And because it's spooky season and I love horror and haunted houses and all of the things, this time of year is just my favorite. I love the colors. Grew up in a place with lots of fall colors. So I just love the fall. It's my favorite season of all time. So I hope that you guys are enjoying the fall. Now I know that last week we talked a little bit about some of the books and stuff that I'm reading, and shout out to everyone who emailed me or messaged me for book recommendations. I'm definitely going to be checking those out. So if you guys have any book recommendations, currently I am reading the not Way of the Kings. I'm reading a book called Way of the Kings, but it's from a series called the Stormlight Archive, and I'm reading that to sort of fill the gap from Wheel of Time, which I finished a couple years ago. I've just been having a hard time finding something that I like just as much, so I started that one. But if you guys have any book recommendations, I am here for it, especially in the realm of like sci-fi, horror, even if it's nonfiction, because the majority of what I read is nonfiction. But just to sort of balance that out, if you guys have anything, don't hesitate to email me or DM me. I appreciate those. I'm always reading those, and I'll try to respond as soon as I can to them. So yeah, I have gotten a couple of really good recommendations, so I'm definitely going to be checking that out. Now then, generally around this time of year, I am watching like horror movies and stuff. Typically, and this hasn't happened in the last couple of years, my favorite horror director is probably going to be Mike Flanagan. He did the Dr. Sleep, which was the Shining sequel. He did Midnight Mass. He did the Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor, and House of the Fall of House Usher, I believe is the name of it, based on what is his name? Edgar Allan Poe. Based on Edgar Allan Poe. So I really love the way that he handles horror. It's not necessarily gory, but quite spooky. Same with Ari Aster. I think that's his name, that did the Hereditary and Midsommar. I love those types of stories because they're great stories, right? I think sometimes when we get into horror, especially nowadays, things tend to get like extremely gory. I don't like gore so much. So if you guys have any horror recommendations in terms of movies or shows, I'm willing to check those out as well. I think this time of year, again, we usually have some really good picks. Haven't seen anything from Mike Flanagan lately, so hopefully he'll put out another one. The Fall of House Usher was really good, and I really like the way that he uses the same sort of cast in different stories. So there's like a whole universe, but they each play like different roles throughout the various miniseries and things. So I just enjoy that, right? But I haven't had a chance to watch anything good as of late. So if you guys have any recommendations for that, I would love to hear about that as well. All right, so what I'm doing as I start to work on this particular character is I'm going to tighten up her flats, right? So after we sketch an image for the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, or just an image in general, The way that I approach coloring those images is to lay down flat colors. So those are the local colors, right? So her local flat skin tone. No details. I'm not necessarily interested in details at the point of doing flats. But what happens is, because I'm laying these colors down pretty quickly, they're a little patchy, right? So we want to make sure that we have a nice even flat tone. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of cleaning up these flats, and then we'll sort of lean into our reference and then establish light. Now, the issue that I'm having with this particular illustration is that it is awfully dark, right? So for those of you who have been following this project for a while, you may notice that a lot of the cards are dark. They're extremely dark. That is not on purpose, but I think it is a happy accident, because I think there is some continuity. But in this particular case, it's dark because my reference is of a couple standing under a walkway, and because they're under this walkway, there's a lot of shadow behind them, but it's a daytime scene, so I'm going to have to find balance, or find a way to sort of brighten this up where it makes sense, but it also reads the way that it should read underneath the canopy. So it's a little bit of a tug of war. But yeah, I wanted to go ahead and work on the characters, because we've been working on the background for so long, and there's still so much to do in that aspect of this image. But until we get to, so I just want to see different progress, I guess. So this card represents marriage. It represents structure and sort of like a family unit, right? And so when I was designing this card, I wanted to make sure that I incorporated lots and lots of scenery, lots of beautiful leaves, and just a really nice environment and background. And I wanted it to feel like a celebration. Now, in the original source material for this card, there is a couple, you don't really see as much detail from them. You see more the sort of what am I trying to say? The bow, I guess. So the sort of wedding arches, you see that more so than you see anything. And then behind the couple, you see a castle in the background, which represents the community. And you also see people sort of partying. I didn't necessarily want to draw more than 2 people for this particular scene. And because cards, or tarot cards themselves, are very multifaceted, and there are lots of different meanings that you can draw from a single card, there were a lot of different ways that I could approach this. But I think overall, the connotation for the 4 of Swords that comes to my mind is marriage, right? So I wanted to illustrate the jumping of the broom. Now, I did again set myself up for a few obstacles. One, figuring out how to illustrate the 4 wands, right? So anytime we have a number card, typically you will see however many symbols that corresponds to that number in the card. So for instance, if we have 3 of wands, there are typically 3 staves somewhere. If there are if we're looking at the 3 of cups, there are usually 3 cups, and so on and so forth. When it came to the 4 of wands, I had a little bit of a trick or sort of a little bit of a tricky way to do this. So of course, there are lots of poles in this particular card. I have 2 on the side. Those were not planned. I just kind of added that because the image needed it. But the way that I want to approach the 4 wands in this image is that I'm going to use the 4 or the 3 sort of posts behind them as the first 3 wands, and I want to use the broom as the 4th. Now, because we want to be very intentional about this, and I want to make sure that whoever's picking up this card reads this as a 4 of wands, because it's not going to say of wands on the bottom of the card. It'll just have the number 4 on it. The way that I'm going to do that is that I'm going to add like fairy lights to the posts, and as well as to the broom, so they'll have similar coloring and a similar sort of lighting around them. So hopefully it'll read the way that I want it to read. But art tends to be a little bit of trial and error, right? So we don't want to hold too tough to one particular idea. You want to kind of leave room for creativity. So that's where we are. So I'm just wanting to move around again. We've been focused on this background for so long, and I still have a lot to do on it, right? I have the flowers up above, which in my reference look like this. So by the end of it, it'll look something like this. May not be exact, but it'll look close enough. And then we have the stuff that's going on behind them that will hopefully lighten the scene. And if not, again, I'm going to be putting like some fairy lights around the posts, so that'll kind of add a light source to it. So doing these projects, or doing this particular card specifically, it's been a bit of a journey. Again, we've been working on this card for a while, but I don't know, something about creating and something about sort of taking my time with it is satisfying. Is really, I mean, of course we're always happy with the end result, but I feel like the more that you sort of spend with the piece, as long as you're not overworking it, but the more that you sort of spend with the piece, the more that you are deliberate about what it is that you're doing, the more that you are just sort of enjoying the ride, I feel like the better the experience, right? So that is where we are. So I am again going to go ahead and tighten up the flats on my female character, and then we'll, I guess, do the same with the male. I'm going to start with her, right? People, for me, tend to go by a lot faster than objects. So I don't foresee this taking a whole lot of time. It may take me some time to do her dress and all of that, because I haven't decided yet how I want to approach the see-through nature of her dress. If I want to keep it see-through or not, we'll see. But for now, we'll just sort of work on her skin and then use our mannequins in the reference as a reference, right? So again, I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you are enjoying this spooky season, if that's your thing. Again, this is just my favorite time, my favorite time of the year. I get all kinds of ideas and inspirations, and that's something I don't think we've talked a lot about. I know that we talk a lot about pivoting, so the way that the world is sort of shaping up and the way that people are experiencing them. Montreal says, I think the lights would be a nice, okay, come on now. All right, well, we're going to add some lights too. Look at you paying attention. Go ahead on. I'll do that. I'll add the lights to the background. Right on. We will do that. I think that'll be nice. I think that'll make the post stand out real well. And I think that when you pick up the cards, I think that it will obviously be for one. So again, I want to make sure that I am being not too artistic. Sometimes we can overthink things, but want to be intentional in the purpose of this particular project, because these are cards, right? And some people are reading them for the symbols. Some people are reading the actions of things that are happening within the card. So I want to make that as easy as possible. I don't want to be too ambiguous, right? All right. So yeah, we've talked a little bit about pivoting over the last few weeks. Just sort of kind of working towards your goals, working towards your dreams. I don't know that I have expressed exactly what I would like to do. I think sometimes when we have goals and dreams and things like that, it can be a little bit nerve-wracking to speak them out loud, because we worry a lot about what people around us will think about that. But in the same sense, you can't sort of let that dictate how you move forward. So for me, of course, the Cosmic Gateways Tarot is a big one. I've been working on this project for so long. At a certain point, I'll be able to, have this in you guys' hands, so you'll be able to play with the cards and read with the cards and take clients and do all of the things. And, however you intend to or wish to use this particular project, I'm excited to have that be a part of you guys' life, right? Another one of my goals is something that I hadn't really talked a whole lot about, but it's something I've been wanting to do for a really long time, and that is to learn tattooing. I don't know why. I've been wanting to do that, I think, since I got my first one, and I was like, you know what? I really enjoy this. I enjoy the sort of culture. I enjoy the artwork and certainly appreciate the artwork. So that is something that I really, really like to do, just sort of at some point, right? I had an opportunity to learn, I would say 2020, but because we were in the middle of a pandemic and I just did not have the time because kids were at home, right? So we have to homeschool, make sure everything is there because they were not able to go to school. I just didn't have the time to do that. So now I do. So that is something that I'm actively sort of looking into and, remembering that I want to explore. So if any of you guys who are watching this are tattooing, especially here in Memphis, and you guys are looking for an apprentice, I want a tattoo. Right? I think that'll be a whole lot of fun. I think sometimes, again, when we have these goals and dreams, it's a little bit scary to speak it out loud because, again, we are afraid of how people will receive it, what people will think about it as they are sort of watching us and witnessing us live our lives. But I think sometimes when we speak it out loud, that makes that thing real, right? So if I say I'm going to do this tarot deck and I'm going to publish this tarot deck, if I'm just saying it at home to myself, then it's just, a thought. But if I put it out in the atmosphere, if I put it out there and I'm like, what, this is the thing that I really want to do, things tend to sort of work and excel in that way. And I think you hold yourself a little bit more accountable. I think that's one of the main reasons that I do the live streams, because I was working again on this project for 6 years this month, and I was at a point where I would work on it sometimes and sometimes I wouldn't. Sometimes I would be inspired to do it, sometimes I wouldn't, but there was really no set structure. But I figured if I tell you guys that I'm going to be live, right, even if it's just the few of us on live, I feel like I have to sort of show up, right? So that helps hold me accountable for the thing that I actually want to do. So I want to learn how to tattoo. So again, if any of you guys in Memphis that are watching are taking on apprentices, I would be the best goddamn apprentice you'd ever did see. That is something I have been wanting to learn for the absolute longest. And again, I hadn't had the time up till recently. And I got the time to, so I would love to be able to do that. So if you have a goal, sometimes it's good to speak it out loud, because you never know who's watching. You never know who's available to help you, right? You never know who is there to support you along the way. Now, there's always the possibility that people are going to look at you and be like, I don't think that's the thing that you want to do, or I don't think, but they don't have any sort of, or should not have any sort of pull towards what it is that you do with your life, because everybody has their own journey. Right? So everybody has their own set path. And just because someone else doesn't see it for you doesn't mean that you can't see it for yourself, right? So put it out there. I always invite you guys, if you want to come here and talk to me. We've had a couple of guests on the stream, just sort of over the year that we've been streaming now. I think it's been a year and a couple months at this point. We've had quite a few people come on. So if you have a project, if you have a book that you've written, if you have an album that you're putting out, if you have sort of a gallery exhibition that you're doing, whatever it is that you're doing, doesn't even have to be in the creative field. Whatever it is that you're doing, if you would like to have sort of a space to come on and talk about it, I do good interviews, right? If you don't believe me, go back and check out. I thought it was good. Go back and check out the interview that we did with Zajay Richardson back in, I want to say last August, I want to say, something like that. Go back and check that out. I tend to, when I'm interviewing people, I tend to sort of be very curious about what they're doing. So I always ask very thoughtful questions, and I always send those questions to you ahead of time so that you are prepared for whatever it is that we talk about. So yeah, if you have something that you want to work on, if you have a passion project or anything like that, if you have something that you would like to learn, and maybe we can learn it together, let me know. I would be more than happy to have you on, and to hear about your dreams, and to be able to sort of help you in any kind of way that I can. So again, I know that I have sort of put the call out, not only for the interviews, but also for if there's something that I can help you guys learn in the realm of art, let me know that as well. All right. So don't hesitate. I know that we have so many people that watch that may be a little bit shy of saying hello, but you're always welcome here. This is certainly a safe space. I ain't gonna let nothing happen to you. So if you would like to join me, please do that. But yeah, that's one of my goals. That I would love, again, to put out this tarot deck. And I have some other sort of small publishing projects that I've been working on off and on, a little less frequently than the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, that I would absolutely love to share with you guys as well. So don't be afraid to dream. I feel like in this time where people are struggling economically, and again, last week I mentioned Memphis is under occupation. We are certainly under occupation. Everybody and their mama is here, from the National Guard to FBI to Border Patrol. Everybody that they could send to Memphis, Tennessee is in Memphis, Tennessee right now. So at this time, it's a little bit nerve-wracking to sort of be out and about, and to network and to mingle within the city, even if you haven't really seen a lot of it. So in my case, because of where I live, the most I've seen is like an increase in sheriffs and an increase in state troopers here in the city. I don't typically go downtown unless I have to, but from what I'm hearing, they're like pulling people over for it. So it's all that's nerve-wracking. So with all of those things going on in the city that I live in, right, let alone the things that are going on within our economy and the job market and all of the things that we're facing collectively as a society, despite all of that, right, I want you guys to use this time, use this stagnation, if you're experiencing stagnation in your life, which meaning a slowdown in your life where things may not be clicking as fast as you would like for them to click. Use this time to dream, right? This is your time to dream. This is your time to sort of figure out what it is that you actually want to do with your life. And I say this every week, I do not care how old you are, right? Because that tends to be one of the first excuses that we give ourselves. When I'm at a certain point in my life, I'm 39, I don't know if I want to start over, I'm 40 something, I'm 50 something, however old you are, it really doesn't matter. See better for yourself and reach for it, right? Go for it. Because the only person who's saying you're too old is you, right? The only person who's saying that you can't accomplish a certain thing because of whatever circumstance that you find yourself in is you. You're the only one holding yourself back, right? So use this time with all of the things that we have going on to get very creative about how you wish to succeed moving forward, and define your success, right? So everybody's idea of success isn't going to be the same. For some people, that's going to be lots of money and fame, and all the perks that comes with being wealthy and renowned. And for some people, the idea of success is being able to work from home and do the things that they want to do, and be able to live freely and network, or whatever the case is. But define whatever success means for you and make that decision. Right? Sometimes our stagnation really is due to us not deciding what it is that we want to do, and maybe we don't know. Right? But make that decision, decide what it is that success means for you, and that makes things a whole heck of a lot easier to be able to focus your attention on where you want to go, right? And don't be limited again by your circumstances, your age, your gender, your identity, whatever the thing is. Just kind of go for it. So we're auto saving now, and I want to remind you guys while that's doing it, because it's gonna be a minute. I want to remind you guys of what the Cosmic Gateways Tarot looks like. So again, this was one of the dreams that I had for many years prior to starting. So I started this at the end of 2019. This was just a project that I wanted to do, right? And I took a chance on it. So I started at the end of 2019. I've been working on this inconsistently up till last year for all of that time, due to a number of reasons, right? But I would put out a card. I would sort of examine the cards. I was actually actively reading tarot at the time that I started this. So it was super fresh on my mind. And I was able to sort of create the thing that I wanted to see, right? How long ago was that? That was 6 years. I'm 39, so I started it at 33, right? Started this project at 33. At the time, I was a little bit overconfident because I was watching other creators create, and I was watching them create at a lightning pace, right? I was watching them or listening to a podcast with Bridget Esselmont, who does Biddy Tarot, and her artist was like, yeah, I put out a tarot deck in 6 months, right? I have been following ones that were like 2 years. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, anywhere between 6 months and 2 years, I should be straight. I should have it ready to go. I should have this in the people's hands and, rocking it and everything, but it's taking me a lot longer. So along the process, I've learned a lot about being patient with myself and being patient with my own journey, because everybody's circumstances are not going to be the same. I didn't have every waking hour to devote to the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. I was watching, I believe, I think his name is Menzel, who was working like 12 hours a day on his tarot deck that he recently put out, and I don't have 12 hours. Don't have 12 hours a day to devote to it, right? So I think what it did teach me was to, of course, have patience with my own process, but also not to compare yourself. I feel like when we compare ourselves to other people's journeys, we're sort of setting ourselves up for heartbreak, because we don't know these people's circumstances. We don't know what struggles led them to the point where they can get to wherever they are in life, right? We don't see a lot of the behind the scenes. So I feel like comparing yourself is certainly like the thief of joy. Is that how the saying goes? Comparison is the thief of joy. I find that to be absolutely true. You don't know what people are going through, right? You don't know what kind of time they have. You don't know if they have kids and, other things going on in their life. So I started this 2019. I did really well 2020. I think because there was not a whole lot to do because of the shutdowns. I didn't have as many clients. So I was really heavily focused into this project. And as I was sort of working on the cards, I'm like, oh, this is taking me a minute, right? Because I wanted to be deliberate about it. And again, I had other things going on, so I could not devote the 12 hours a day or however long it would have taken me to finish this within a year or two. So, that's where we are. Now we have about 42 cards done. This card that we're currently working on is card number 43. And there will be 78 cards in this complete deck. So there will be 78 unique illustrations. Where I am now is that I am trying to figure out how I want to articulate the next progression of cards. So we've done all of the 2s, 3s, 4s. Well, this is the last 4. So the next set, if I were to go in sequence, would be the 5s, right? The problem that I'm having with the 5s is that I just don't know what to illustrate. I have no idea what it is that I want to draw for those particular cards yet. So I'm thinking maybe I should just skip, which is usually what I do when I get stuck. I just kind of skip around to the next whatever, whether it's the next set of 6s, whether it is the next set of wands, and just do all wands or do all pentacles and so on and so forth. But yeah, you skip around, and you do that because small progress is better than no progress at all. Sometimes when we hit these hurdles and things become difficult for us, we quit because we're not getting that instant gratification that we would get for, or that we're watching other people get, as we're again comparing ourselves to other people. But sometimes just skip around. So for instance, of the 42 cards, I think there are 22 major arcana cards. I have 4 left to do, right? And at the time that I started this project, in major arcana, so let's break this down. So tarot is divided into 2 groups of cards. You have the major arcana cards and you have the minor arcana cards. The major arcanas are things like the devil, things like temperance, the tower, the magician, and so on and so forth. Those are archetypes, meaning those are the strongest energies for those particular cards. So of those 22 cards, I have 4 left to do. Now I have attempted to draw every last one of them cards. I have some version of every last one of those cards. That's the Chariot, that's the Sun, the Moon, and the Star. Those are the 4 that I have left to do. Now, because I was doing the sequence of cards and I was going in order and things were working out and I was getting all of the other major arcanas done, when I got to those 4, I could have been like, you know what? I've been working on this at this point 3 years or however long it had been. I don't think I'll be able to do it because I can't figure these 4 cards out. But again, tarot is divided into 2 groups, major arcana and minor arcana. So rather than focus my attention on a thing that I wasn't able to sort of figure out at that time, I decided let's skip around. Right? And I did that from the beginning. I did not start working on these cards in order at all. It was just whatever card I had an idea for is the one that I went forward with, right? So rather than give up when I could not figure out those 4 cards, and I still don't know what I'm gonna do about them, I just moved on. I did the queens. I later did the knights. I did the pages. And then now we're in the numbers, right? Still have the kings to do. I've tried those. I don't know what I'm going to do about the kings, right? And now I'm figuring out what I'm going to do about the 5s. But because I don't know what I want to do about the 5s, I have so many more cards to do. Let's skip around. So sometimes that's sort of how it goes. You don't have to necessarily follow a linear path, right? You don't have to go step 1, 2, and 3. Just sort of do what you can to sort of get to where you want to go, right? What helps in doing that is figuring out what it is going to take to sort of get you to that point. So if, for instance, you are wanting to write a book, let's say you want to write a book, right? Got this story in mind and you've made it to page 100. You have no idea what you want to do. Start writing the ending of the book, right? Skip around, write the conclusion. What happens in the climax, and sort of move around and then put those puzzle pieces together later on. So that progress to me is better than no progress at all. It's so much better than giving up, because what will happen is you can give up on something and you can say, I can't figure it out. I ain't patient. I don't have no patience for this. I don't have time for this, or whatever the case is. But years later, you'll come to regret not continuing to go on that path, because what you'll say is, okay, I've spent 5 years not working on it. In those 5 years, I could have had so much more done, right? So sometimes small progress is all the progress you need just to sort of keep you moving forward. The whole goal, or the whole key, is just to continue moving forward, right? Sometimes that movement involves just talking about it, right? Sharing your ideas and things like that. I think when we think small, or sort of if we're in a certain environment, our ideal, because I've thought about this, right? I've had these same inclinations. We'll say, well, I don't want to speak it out loud because I don't want people to steal my idea, right? So I remember having an interview, and it was another guy who was also creating a tarot deck, and he was concerned about sharing the title of his tarot deck because he was afraid that someone else would steal the title. And to that, or to any circumstance like that, I would say put it out there anyway. Because if people get used to seeing something under your name, if someone else comes and are trying to sort of use that same name, you already built up a legacy of using it. If it's just an idea in your head, nobody knows. You know what I mean? So they could have the exact same idea. And you're like, dang, they stole it, or whatever the case is, when all the while nobody knew that was yours, right? So just sort of put it out there, take your time with it, figure out what it is that you want to do, figure out your idea of success, and continue to move forward. Again, the things that used to work for us are no longer working, right? The things that the path that we were taught to sort of take may not be the best path for you. So you have to kind of figure out what it is that you want to do with your life, what success looks like for you. Maybe success isn't the thing that you are after anyway. Maybe you just want to be comfortable. Maybe you just want to be content. What does that look like? And I don't mean like broad strokes like, yeah, it's easy as this, and this. Be very specific. Paint the picture, right? If it is, I want to own a ranch out in Colorado, you know what I mean? And I want to homestead, add layers to it, add sort of specifics to it, because as you do that, then you'll begin to sort of program your mind to figure out ways to make it happen, right? For example, I have a friend who does a lot of traveling, and job market is a little wonky right now, right? So she's like, well, I don't know if I should plan my vacations because, right now things are not working out. But my thing is, if you go ahead and plan it, if you can see yourself there, if you can get the information, if you get the calls, you'll figure out a way to do it because you've already decided that that's what you want to do. It'll work itself out, right? That's kind of how you have to do. So that's sort of how I'm approaching this. Now, at the time of creating this, of course, I'm the type of person who will research something to death. I got to find out exactly what it is that I'm doing, or at least get a general idea of what it's going to take to sort of get something completed, right? So I had early on, I had contacted manufacturers to figure out the cost that it would take to create this, so that I can then, plan for that. I can say, okay, well, if it costs this much now, I'll need to sell this many units to make cost, right? Or I'll need to do this certain thing to be able to afford to create this project. So research, that is a step in the right direction. That is a step toward progress. Figure out what it's going to take to sort of get you to where you want to go, and then start working towards it. Right now, again, sometimes we get kind of hung up in not wanting to share our goals with other people, right? But I feel like it's just a matter of who you're sharing your goal with. And even if you have people who don't see it for you, kind of use that as motivation. That's what I do when I have people who are like, well, no, I don't, I can't invest in that, but I can invest in this other thing that you used to do. My thing is, okay, that's cool, but watch me work. Right? Watch how this turns out. And then we'll see what you think about it, right? Sometimes you have to show people just to show yourself. Sometimes you have to use that as rocket fuel and as motivation to keep going. But the goal is to just never stop. Be persistent and allow yourself to make mistakes. That is another hang up we kind of run into. Being afraid to fail, being afraid to look a fool, right? Being afraid to be made a fool of in that process. But if you know going into something that you don't know everything there is to know about whatever it is that you're going into, right? If you look at it from a perspective of, I know I'm going to make mistakes because I don't know what I'm doing. I know I'm going to make mistakes. I know that I may not get it right 100% of the time at first. I can use those mistakes to learn, though. I can use those mistakes to be better and to get better. If you approach it from that perspective, it ain't gonna be that hard. You know what I mean? Not from that space, not from the egoic space of being afraid of failing, because failure is a very, very strong teacher. Sometimes going through that failure is the best way to learn a thing, right? Because I can tell you, yeah, you could do this, and this to get to where you want to go. But until you go through that, until you see whether or not that thing is going to work for you, until you sort of bump your head, it ain't going to make no sense whatsoever. It really is not even going to matter what I say to you, because that's not going to be true for your experience. You have to kind of go through that together. But be open for that. Be open to making mistakes, and be okay with not having all of the answers out the gate, right? As long as you can do that, right? As long as you can continue to move forward, as long as you can learn from those mistakes, I think you'll be okay. I really believe that in my heart. And I think that success is out there. Whatever that means for you is out there if you want it, right? If you go for it. So again, shout out to you guys in the chat. I thank you so much, whether you're watching this live or the replay. I really appreciate y'all for being here. I get to talk. This is fun for me, I believe, live streaming. And to think I was so nervous to do it. What did I just do? I was so nervous to begin my live streaming journey because I was afraid of being of making those mistakes in front of people. Of course, I knew that art is a series of mistakes and sort of push and pull and trial and error. Sometimes I know exactly what I'm doing. Sometimes I don't, right? So it's very nerve-wracking for me to be like, okay, I got to draw in front of people, because it's always been something that I've been hesitant to do. But it is something I absolutely love to do. I love to create art. I love to see the creation of art. I like to see other people create as well. And so to be able to share that, I hope, is encouraging you guys that to continue to create, to continue to work towards your dream, whatever that dream is, and just to go for life. We are sort of the architects of our own life and our own experiences. You just have to believe in yourself enough and respect yourself enough to make decisions, right, that will have a positive impact on your life, and not necessarily a decision that I'm just going to rush into because I think I'm too old, or I have this certain circumstance and I got to get there. Take your time, right? This is your life. Your parents can't tell you how you're supposed to live your life. Your siblings can't tell you. Your spouses can't tell you. This is your experience. This is your life. So make the best of it. Why not have fun and experiment? If it's something that you want to do, at least try it. You'll never know, where that road leads you until you take it, right? So you have to kind of do that. So what I'm doing now is just sort of following the blueprint of my 3D model. And then I'm just going to add details a little bit later. I'm just blocking in value, right? So there's light that hits her arm and light that hits her face in a certain space. I'm just adding that to the card. I'm not reaching for perfection. As a matter of fact, what I'm going to do is select it so that I don't color outside the lines too much unless I need to. And I'm just going to add this lighter color to her, and then we will flesh out the rest of her skin tone as I go. So again, it's okay to make mistakes. I know sometimes that we are afraid of how we'll look to people, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we're not necessarily zooming out, right? So sometimes we can get kind of caught up in the environment and in the city and the neighborhood and the people that we knew and grew up with, and we're afraid of what they'll think if we try this thing, right? What they'll think. We're sort of afraid of the cringe. I'm afraid of the cringe, right? So it's not just you guys. It's not sort of an isolated incident. I'm also afraid of that. I've had those moments where I'm like, I don't know if I should, especially with the live streams, I don't know if I should go live because I don't know what people that I ain't seen in 20 years, 30 years are going to think about me. I don't care nothing about what they for. I had to get to that point where it's like, I don't care nothing about what those people are doing. They ain't doing nothing. You know what I mean? We're afraid of what people are going to think about us. People who are not doing anything themselves. So you kind of have to be bold in that, and you have to be comfortable just being yourself. And because again, we have the world at the palm of our hands. I got the world with me everywhere I go. You'll never know who you'll meet just sort of being authentically you. Despite what people around you may be into, what they may be doing, what they may think. To sort of dare to take a chance and move past the cringe. Now I'm saying this, but I also sort of am working towards moving past the cringe. Not necessarily in the realm of the live streams, because I feel like I'm at home, I'm comfortable. I'm in the t-shirt and pajama pants. You know what I mean? We cool. And I think that the environment or the community, you guys are so awesome that I don't feel uncomfortable being sort of vulnerable just in this space, just being myself, just talking and making mistakes and tripping over my words every now and again and whatever else comes with it. I don't mind doing that, right? For me, what it is making like the short form videos where you have to like talk and things like that, and sort of approach social media in that space. To me, that's where I'm sort of still working on, because it's like some videos I do really well with. So anytime I'm explaining the cars and doing all that, I don't mind doing that. But there are some that I want to try, and it's like, I don't know if I should. You know what I mean? So I'm sort of, I go through that, right? You sort of have these, and I don't know if that's a form of imposter syndrome or not, but you're sort of like, I don't know if I should, because I don't know what people will think. But I think sometimes when we're afraid in that way and we just feel like we don't know if we should, I think the easiest way to get over that is just to do it. just do the thing, right? That's how it was for me at the live stream. If you guys go all the way back to my very first live stream, I was so nervous. I was so doggone nervous. And I don't know what I was doing. I didn't know that this was going to be a thing that I would continue. I was just like, okay, look, I got to work on the cars this week. I'm going to pick Sunday to do it. And just to hold myself accountable, I'm going to do it live. Right? And so I just went from there. And it just got easier along the process. But in other forms of like advertising and marketing and things like that, sort of selling yourself and your services, not necessarily yourself, but just your services and your goods in different ways, is a little nerve wracking to me. Even with the tattooing, because I'm like literally actively doing that. I know that I'll have to at some point go to shops and be like, hey, are y'all accepting apprentices? That's nerve wracking. Right? That is so doggone nerve wracking because that you have that we have these self-imposed limitations. Now, I've been an artist my entire life. I don't know that I am tattoo art good, but very confident in my ability to create and do those things. And so that becomes very, very nerve-wracking to sort of do something new and to sort of do what is cringy, right? But I think a lot of that is all in our heads. So ain't no if to it. Sort of progress on that journey. I'll let you guys know how that goes. So that is something, again, I have been wanting to do for a really, really long time. So I was like, now seems to be the perfect time for it because, it's opened up that way. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, you just have to kind of do it. You just kind of have to do it. Maybe we should form some kind of support group for us conquering our fears, the things that we find nerve-wracking, just to sort of hold each other's hands as we go along. When I was younger, in certain things I was less scary, I guess, because I was young. Right? But as you get older, again, we sort of have these self-imposed limitations. We have this idea in our minds of how things will go. And oftentimes, more often than not, just from my experience, it never really goes the way that we fear it'll go. And again, sometimes the easiest way to sort of get past those fears is to just do the thing you're afraid to do, right? So don't I'm telling you, don't be afraid. It's okay to be afraid. Be afraid, but just do it afraid, right? Do it nervous and all of that. So my and he don't like when I talk about him, but I'm so proud of him. So my son, for instance, did something that he was afraid to do recently, and I was so doggone proud of him. And after the fact, he was like, "Hey, that wasn't so bad." I'm like, "I know, man." It's not always as bad as we imagine it to be. You have to believe in yourself enough to be like, okay, we're going to make a mistake. And if we do, hopefully somebody will correct us or we'll learn from that mistake so that we can move forward in whatever direction we want to go in. All right. So what I'm doing again is just sort of adding value. I'm not necessarily interested in details or anything like that. I'm not adding any eyes or nothing. So I'm going to turn off the sketch just so you can see what I've done. I'm just putting in values, and by values I mean colors that range from light to dark, and deciding how dark I want to go, right, and how light I want to go. So anytime I'm painting like a realistic portrait, the key to that is to have a scale and value, right? So you want to go as light as you do dark. So if you do from white to black, you want to make sure that you have some point in that illustration where you have extremely white, if that's your range, and then you want to have a point in that illustration where you go extremely dark. So in this case, I am just sort of working that out. Now in my 3D model, she has some shadows, but it's not like black or extremely dark, but there are some very deep shadows. So I want to honor that as I lay in these values. And then I'll come back and shade things in. And of course, I'll add details to her dress so that all of this makes sense. And I think by doing this as well, because again, I had some trouble with this being too dark, I think this will brighten up the scene quite a bit. And I think I'll feel better about it. Now, typically when I am doing an illustration, I like to finish one thing at a time before I move on to the next thing. But this canopy was driving me nuts. It was giving me the blues. The background was also driving me nuts and giving me the blues. So I really wanted to start on the figures because, again, people are sort of my comfort zone. That's sort of where I shine. I think I do people extremely well. So I wanted to do that just to sort of get it started. And I could bounce around from there. Now, whether or not I get this lady done today, I probably won't. But I at least feel a little bit better about it, right? So I really enjoy like the leaves that I did in the background. That took such a long time, but I could tell, and I think it's paying off. Same with the posts. The posts were really quick and easy. I'll show you guys if I get around to doing the posts during one of the Sunday streams. I'll show you how I mimic that wood texture. A lot of it is just lines and squiggles. It's so easy, right? So I'll make it sort of easy for you guys. So yeah, if there's something that you guys want to see on this particular channel, again, I have been developing some videos and some courses in terms of like how to do digital art. So that's coming. It'll be here when it gets here. But if there is something that you guys would like to see from me on this, if there's a technique that I can show you that I do, especially when it comes to digital art, just because I've spent so much time in that realm recently. I do also paint. I have lots and lots of acrylic painting videos on this channel, as well as ink portraits on this channel. So if there's anything in those realms that you would like for me to show you or demonstrate or share with you, I would absolutely love to do that. Now, when I was doing digital art, when I was really sort of deliberately trying to get better in it, I used to color images in black and white first. So that was sort of the technique. I would do all of my grayscale values first, and then I would add color to that. That worked for me for a while. I think that taught me a lot about working within that range, that value range, which is something I learned in school, but that was a real practical way for me to do that, to make sure that I was getting an equally, just as light as I did dark, right? So I had a really nice value range. But that sort of technique has a specific look to it. And it wasn't it was kind of muddy sometimes. Sometimes it would get extremely muddy. So I just decided one day, I was like, you know what, instead of me going through the black and white process, I think I'm going to just paint local colors and go from there. And I've been doing that ever since, and it works out for me. But I believe in my heart, if you would like to learn digital work, I think that's a really great place to start, especially if you're sort of studying art and getting better as an artist. Start with your grayscales. And by grayscale, I mean like black and white illustrations. Start there and then add color later. So as soon as this finished auto saving, we'll get back to this lady. She's coming together pretty good. I like where the values are sitting compared to my 3D model. And again, I'll add details and things like that to it later. So I'm never really reaching for perfection at this particular point in an illustration. I'm not really looking for it to look like her. I'm just sort of laying down the light and the shadow where it goes, and then I can come back on top of that and add more detail and more color and all of that. So again, I hope y'all are doing all right. And again, let me go back to my earlier request. If there is something like a horror or a horror movie show, or a book that you guys are into right now, I would love to hear about it, because I'm looking for something to watch. I just finished watching a show called Wayward, which was on Netflix, and it was okay. It was about what is it about? It is about a school where people send their troubled teens to, but the school is like a cult and the whole town is a part of it and the whole thing. And so it's about these girls trying to escape that, or these students trying to escape it, because it wasn't just the girls. And one of the former students returning and sort of getting back into the fold. It was okay. It was all right. It started strong. I thought the ending was a little lackluster. It was okay. I know that I don't know if you guys are familiar with Chris Stuckman, he does movie reviews on YouTube. He has a movie coming out I kind of want to go see. There were a couple other horrors. Black Phone 2 I want to see, because the first one was really good. So maybe we'll go to the movies one of these days. But if you guys have any movie recommendations or like book recommendations or anything like that, I would love to know about it. I would love to, because I am looking for something to look at while I work. So right now I'm watching a K-drama, and I don't remember the name of it, but it's about a girl who goes back in time. She's a chef and she's working for the prince. K-dramas are another one of like my guilty pleasures. I don't know if you guys have ever watched a Korean drama outside of like Squid Games, but like some of the like Boys Over Flowers, those kinds of K-dramas, they are so good. So I've been watching that one here lately. I think my favorites are Boys Over Flowers. I really like that one, and specifically the Korean version, because I watched the Chinese version of it. It was a little too much for me, but I really liked it. I really liked the Korean version of it. And what else? There was one called Pasta that I really enjoyed. There was one called Crash Landing on You that was real good. I was like watching that one. I was like, you know what, the main character, the protagonist, and her love interest, they seem to have some good chemistry. Come to find out they married. So I was like, okay, well that's what it is. And it was like they get along real well. But yeah, so I love K-dramas. So if you have a K-drama that you like, I have watched K-pop Demon Hunters. I thought it was real cute. I think I'm gonna watch it again. That was one of those that I was watching while I was working, so I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to it. But one of these days I will. So it looks like I'm having some trouble. What's happening here? I'm having some trouble with my keyboard. Is this a sign for me to stop? Uh-oh. It looks like anytime typically when I'm pulling up like a tool, a pen or a brush or something like that, I'll see the dot. But right now I'm only getting an arrow. Not entirely sure why that is. It's not sort of responding to, let me see, it's not really responding to the keyboard command. So is it something I'm doing? Let's see. I'm gonna deselect. Hello. Okay. Well, it looks like we're at a point where I can't move forward, so I have to figure out what that is. So it's been about 50 minutes. So for everyone who stopped by, I appreciate you guys for being here and listening to me run my mouth. Please start to make time for your dreams. Please start to figure out what success means for you, and then let me know, because I really want to know what it is that you have going on in your life, because I'm inspired by you guys. I get messages and DMs from you guys, and first of all, I wholly appreciate it, and I really appreciate and am honored that you all let me in on what it is that you have going on in your life that means so much to me, especially for my artists and things like that. Even if you're not an artist, I love to hear from you. I love to hear that you are sort of making progress in your life, and I love to hear that you guys are sort of taking a chance on doing something else, right? Doing something different, or doing something that you always dreamed of. So just do me that solid. Do me that favor and start to define what success means for you and start to work towards that success. So last week I highlighted my brother, so shout out to my brother Chris, who did a post where he sort of showed his beginning and where he is now. So, you know, he had a rocky start in life early in his early adulthood, and how far he's come. And so seeing that, not just from my brother, but seeing that from you guys, is so inspiring to me. So if you you would love to share that with me, I would love to hear about it. But just do me a favor and start to work on the things that you dream of. Now again, I'm having some technical issues with the the program, so I cannot move forward. So I do appreciate each and every one of you guys for being here, whether you were here for the live stream or here for the replay. Thank you so much for watching. Do me a huge favor and hit the thumbs up. It says that we have about 12 people watching. Don't forget to hit the like button. That helps me out a whole lot. And if you like a more chill live stream, I'm here every Wednesday at 12:45 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now, during those live streams, I don't really do a lot of explaining of what I'm doing on the screen. I don't really talk a whole lot. I am in the chat, though. So if you're in the chat and you want to just chat with me while I work, while you guys work, while you guys study and do the things that you love to do, do that. Be there with me on Wednesdays at 12:45. If you guys are tattoo artists here in Memphis and you're looking for an apprentice, hit me up, please. Let me know. That's something I want to do. And until next time, I hope you guys have a happy, creative, and prosperous week. Peace.